Hello, everyone. We have a huge special guest on the show with us right now. We're talking to the insanely amazing Amanda Palmer. Hey, Amanda.
Hello.
How are you this fine day?
I'm fantastic. I'm in Los Angeles, city of broken angels.
Beautiful. So you have just announced that you are going to release a book. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure, Will. I did this TED Talk, as you might have seen or heard about, and there was a lot of buzz around it and a lot of attention, so a ton of publishers approached me about writing a book. And writing a book is something I've actually wanted to do for a long time, but because I'm a musician and because I'm a touring musician, there's never a good time to stop your career and write a book, which clearly, it doesn't happen by itself. It takes a lot of time, and you need to set aside months to sit down and write it, and then you need to edit it, and then you need to re-edit it, and it's a big undertaking. And in the years of the Dresden Dolls, I never wanted to stop touring, and then my solo career started, and I never wanted to stop touring. And it finally took some outside people really rattling my chain saying, we really want you to write a book. Will you write a book, for me to set the time aside and say yes. So, and I'm really glad. I think it's time. I'm 37. I have plenty of stuff to say. It's probably a good idea for me to slow down and not tour so much. So I'm going to basically write it this fall and winter and then put it out.
Nice.
So you and your band are doing 2 shows in New Zealand on the 4th and the 6th of September in Wellington, Auckland. Have you been roundaways with the Grand Theft Orchestra before, and do you enjoy coming to our little country?
Well, I love coming to your little country, and I've been many times. I've been many times with the Dresden Dolls, and I've been many times solo, but I've never brought this particular band, and this is a special band of 3 guys, bass, drums, guitar, synth, and we recorded my last record together in Melbourne, actually.
Nice.
And this is the tour of that album, which has been going on for well over a year now. The album came out last September. It's coming up on the 1st anniversary of the record, and we're continuing to tour into December. So it's been a long, protracted world tour that will have taken about a year and a half by the time it wraps up, and this is the only stop we're doing in New Zealand and Australia. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And I've never had a bad time in New Zealand. I've had nothing but amazing shows, and the fans there are incredible. So I'm always excited to come back. It's my favorite part of the world to tour in.
Whoop, whoop. So how is your upcoming tour going to be different to your past tours?
Well, the band makes things different. When I tour solo, I'm very loose and impulsive. I take requests. I tell stories. I get kind of crazy on stage alone because it's just me and the audience. When I'm with the band, it's sort of more, it needs to be more organized because I don't want to leave the band standing there for 15 minutes while I go off on a tangent. So we stick to more of a set list, but there's still a lot of room for doing things last minute, and the band takes requests, and we change things up a little bit every night so that we don't get bored. I was actually just thinking this morning it would be really fun to do I have a song called New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's usually a cute, silly ukulele song, but I was thinking it would be really fun to do a full band punk version of it. So we might pull out stuff like that. And we kind of decide, as we roll along on the road, we figure things out and we come up with fun stuff to do so that it never feels stale.
Awesome.
So Theatre is Evil's most recent album ever released and features the Grand Theft Orchestra all the way through. What is the writing process like with them, and is it wildly different from other bands and musicians you've worked with in the past?
Well, there's always similarities and differences between the creative process in every album. When the one thing that's always been the same, and I've put out about five big records at this point, I write songs all the time in my life. I don't stop and write songs for 2 months and then record them and make an album. I write as I live.
Mm-hmm.
And, I get inspired walking down the street and then, come home and bang it out on the piano, and I save things and stockpile them. And then when it's time, I look at the best of what I've got and I gather it all up together and put out a record. But I'm not the sort of musician who goes into the studio with nothing to create things from scratch. I've never really done that. Not that it doesn't sound fun, and not that it doesn't clearly work for other people, but I'm sort of more of a collector, and then I take everything I've collected and output it in one burst. And this record in particular was a really fun one because it was a very bossy set of songs that, I listened to what I had written in demo format, and I was like, well, I clearly need a bassist, I clearly need a drummer, and I clearly need some guitars and synths because these are really 80s songs and they really need, 80s sort of arrangements and production. So I guess I need to go find a band, and I went out and spent a year finding a band.
Nice. So you share a relationship with your fans that may be considered closer than a lot of musicians, such as staying at people's houses when you're touring and visiting fans and asking for favours when you need help. Do you think this helps you connect with them when you're performing, and was it a conscious effort, or is it just part of who you are?
I think it's just part of who I am. I mean, there's a lot more people like me than there are people like Britney Spears.
Yeah.
or name a band that gets on a giant tour bus at the end of the night. I mean, and those kinds of acts probably will always exist, but they're becoming more and more rare as the giant mainstream machine sort of breaks down. But, the bands I loved in high school and the music community that I know is just functions like that. You help each other out, you stay in each other's houses, you play on each other's nights, and that's just the way I grew up and the way I know life. It's not like I sat down when I was 25 and starting a band and said, I know it'll be a really fantastic marketing technique. I'll stay on my fans' floors. People love that. It's just like we needed places to stay, so we asked our fans. It just made sense.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it still makes sense because, when I measure my happiness index and I kind of compare what it's like to stay in a hotel and what it's like to stay at a fan's house, especially if I'm playing at their house, sometimes it's more fun to go off to somebody's, little guest bedroom and take their cat and a cup of tea than it is to get in your car and drive across town to the motel where it's lonely and impersonal. I like being with people, so it makes sense to me to do it that way.
Yeah. Your performances are also very theatrical and expressive, and you've even described the Dresden Dolls as punk rock cabaret before. Have you always had a theatrical background, and is it something that spans across your entire music career and through the various bands you've been a part of?
Theater is something that I grew up doing. I was in musical theater shows as a kid, and I did a lot of theater in high school and college, and I studied theater. And I never made much of a separation between music and theater. I think they're both kind of different expressions of sort of the same thing. And, I knew when I was a kid that I wanted to be an artist and I wanted to be a performer, but I never thought it was going to be necessary that I chose between music and theater. And certainly I never wanted to be an actor or a movie star or anything like that. That seemed boring. I wanted to make things and show people. And I figured going into rock and roll kind of had a little bit of everything inside it. You got to make videos, you got to make artwork, you got to write songs, you got to perform them, you got to wear weird costumes, you got to do everything. So that looks like the tastiest job. I think that's why I wanted it.
So your involvement with the Kickstarter projects has been hugely successful. What are your theories on why they are so successful?
I think because I have a really strong community who I talk to all the time and stay constantly connected with. So when I go asking them for support and help, I'm not coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of my fans have been following me and my blog and my bands and my music since I was 25 and they were 16 and now they're 28. And it's a really beautiful, real relationship. It's not phony and it's not really replicable. I can't tell a brand new band, if you do these 3 things, you'll have magical success. I mean, this is like a career's worth of work.
Yeah.
And a lot of that career's worth of work is that these people have really been following my life and my story for so long that it feels like family. And that's special. And so when I go to them and say, I want to do a new project, and who wants to buy it? Throw down your money now so that I have the money to make it. They're all like, hell yeah, we loved the last bunch of projects and we want to see what you do next, so we'll happily help you.
Yeah.
And it's a relationship. It's like any relationship. You take care of your friends, and then when you need, when you need them to come along with their band to help you move, you call them up, and if you haven't called in 2 years, you're a bad friend.
Yeah.
If you've been hanging out constantly, it's like, of course I'm going to help you. You're my friend.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a big, deep, complicated topic. It's part of why I'm writing this book. It's like, to answer that question, I need 5 hours with you to tell you all about my life and my past and history of my band, and I think that's why the book is going to be a good idea. I'll just tell you to go read the book.
Yeah.
So you're no stranger to controversy, but most recently you were involved in a little feud with the Daily Mail, who, in reporting on your show, made no mention of your music or the performance itself, but only the activity of your clothing, to which you responded beautifully in your concert and with a performance called Dear Daily Mail, Up Yours. Do you see yourself as a role model in terms of standing up for the little guy and what has become of the Daily Mail ordeal?
But, I think it all counts as a feud if there's actually like a rapport, a communication between me and the Daily Mail. And actually, all that happened is they printed that article, and I sang my song, and I knew that was going to be the end of it, and I think they did too. I never got a response from the email.
Yeah.
But I did have millions of people watching it on the internet, which to me was that was the big win.
Yeah.
And it spawned some really fantastic discussions, and I was really happy to see some Australian and New Zealand papers and blogs picking up on it, because the discussion that was supposed to start was why is this crazy paradigm happening, and we all think it's normal, but it's ridiculous. I mean, it is. Like, you open up a tabloid, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just like you take the long view of culture and how we treat each other and how, our human potential to help and support each other. And you open up a tabloid, and you see, like, a bunch of nipple flips and a bunch of baby bumps and a bunch of she's too fat and she's too thin and oh, my God. And you just want to strangle the human race. Because it seems like by now we should have figured this out, but we haven't.
Yeah. Do you feel like being a musician gives you one of the best platforms for helping those in need and supporting charities and support groups?
Well, it certainly gives me a loud megaphone. I have 1 million followers almost on Twitter, and so if I choose to point energy in a certain direction, there's a power. But the great thing about my fan base is, I can boost a signal as loud as I want. I can plug a charity or a cause or a politician, whatever, as much as I want. But my fans are incredibly free thinkers, so they're not, they'll never do what I tell them, and I never tell them what to do.
Yeah.
I can share information, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Everybody out there has their own free will. And I really try not to abuse that power or dilute the stream, because, I could spend all day, every day, sharing every single thing, every single fan sends me things. I live in Des Moines, and I'm making a record, and I live in Australia, and I'm Kickstarting a record, and I probably get 20 of those a day, and all my need was that my fans would be exhausted in about 48 hours, because, all I would be saying is, over the course of days is, here's 50 projects for all of them. It's just not a good use of time. And, I think crowdfunding and charity and community support are important, but I also think you can't make something important to someone just by saying, hey, this is important, you should do it. I think, communities need to support each other internally, and bands need to go to their fans for support. And, I think it's awesome if there is a band in rural Sussex, England, who's crowdfunding a record, but, their crowd isn't necessarily my fan base, so I can boost signals as much as I want, but, chances are I'm not going to be able to help people as much as they think.
Yeah.
And if I want to help charity, what I'll do is I give that charity money, or I give them a song, or I give them, I give them what I can give them, and I go direct.
Nice. So we have a pretty huge fan here in studio with us today. Her name's Georgia, and she's got a question she'd like to ask you.
Hi, Amanda. As a teenage girl myself, you have been a huge role model for me. And I was wondering, in light of the whole Miley Cyrus VMAs incident, etc., what advice would you give to girls growing up as how do we deal with this? How do we cope with the media throwing all these contradicting things at us, and how do we grow into people? What advice do you have?
I think the advice I have is don't get sucked in. Don't get sucked in by any of it. It's not news, and it's not really, it kind of is sort of like a fake controversy, and the media needs these things desperately to sell ad space and to get eyeballs, and it really is, it's like a circus. Mm-hmm. And when, I saw a bunch of people ask me, Miley Cyrus, so I went, it was really interesting for me. I went online and watched the video expecting something really outrageous. I was like, if all these people in the world are talking about, this event, something really significant must have happened. So I'm going to watch it. Like the residents say, like, you can't be ignorant of your own culture. And I watched it, and I was like, I don't get it. Maybe it's about the context of Miley Cyrus and who she once was, and maybe it's about this and about that, but I was like, there's so many interesting things happening in the world. There's so much great art. There's so many risk-taking, groundbreaking, mind-blowing artists. Having a conversation like this for days and days is like eating cotton candy. It's just like empty calories and a waste of time. So, it's interesting when stuff like this happens, and then there's a conversation, and then there's a meta-conversation, and then there's a conversation about the conversation, and then all of a sudden you've got people screaming at each other about the beauty standard and about feminism and about pop music, and they're not even talking about Miley Cyrus anymore. It's hard not to want to weigh in, and I'm doing it right now. I could have just said it, no comment, I pass on the question. But I think the biggest thing you got to do is remember what's important. And, what's important is that whatever. Miley Cyrus is a pop star. She's got a difficult past. She's had a weird past. She's trying to break out and define herself. She's doing it strangely. Culture, especially Americans, wildly overreacts to everything. And, the thing that makes me the saddest is that I know what it feels like to be, an artist trying to find themselves, which Miley is clearly trying to do, and I've been there, and I'm often still there. And B, I know what it's like to wake up to what feels like the whole world criticizing you, and the whole world passing judgment on you as you try to figure out your way as an artist. And I know it feels terrible. So, I don't think Miley Cyrus did anything wrong. I think she's got a difficult job ahead of her to find her own artistic voice. And if this is part of how she's finding it, great. Maybe she's overshooting a little bit and she's going to back up. But to watch how mean the world is and to watch how judgmental and cruel the world is, and to see people discussing her as if she's not a real human being, that hurts me. So just make sure you don't do that.
To answer your question.
Thank you. I'll definitely take that on board.
So here at Radio Control, we like to ask the question, if you, Amanda Palmer, were a fruit, what fruit do you think you would be?
Do you want like oh God, what kind of answer do you want? I'd be a passion fruit.
Nice. That's good.
Get it? Because I'm full of passion.
Yeah, I get it.
Also,
a banana.
and do you think also for us here at Radio Control we could get a quick station ID from you?
Sure, just Radio Control.
Yep, just I'm Amanda Palmer and you're listening to Radio Control.
Easy. Hi, this is Amanda Palmer and you are listening to Radio Control.
Thank you
You're
very
the best.
much.
Thank you so much for your time, Amanda. You're so inspiring, and we look forward to seeing you down here in New Zealand.
Next month, well, yes, which is very, very soon.
It's in like a week.
I know, it's crazy,
I can't wait.
So, pardon?
I'm trying to remember the exact dates and venues off the top of my head. I should have written them down.
I'm pretty
I've
sure
totally
it's the 4th
forgotten. I
and
know
the
I'm-
6th.
Yes.
Yeah, 4th and 6th of September in Wellington and Auckland.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Francisco Bathhouse in Wellington and King's Arms in Auckland.
Yeah.
Awesome.
With the band, which is going to be great. So if you had me do a station ID, it means you recorded this interview.
Yeah.
Yes, as well, yes, we did.
Will you do me a personal favor?
All right.
Will you have whoever is going to deal with the audio, have them cut and paste that Miley Cyrus answer? And what was your name, Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia's here. She's
Who
a
asked me
huge
to-
fan.
Okay, so cut and paste Georgia asking the question and me into a little clip that I can share on YouTube because I want the rest of the fans to hear that.
All right.
That impassioned, leave Miley alone.
Leave Miley alone. Yeah, sweet ass. We can do that for you.
That would be awesome, and just send me the link, and I'll share it. I would love that.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time, and you're super great. We love you here at Radio Control.
Thank you. I'll see you at one of the shows, hopefully.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So we're going to leave everyone here with
Thanks,
a
guys.
song of yours as well.
Yeah, want it back.
Thanks, guys.